And
exactly.
we were already talking at Scoundrel about a Shaman deck that Boar Control actually created himself.
Yes, now Boar Control is super innovative. I had to say decks that he favoured. He's been very good at tempo mid-range decks. They've generally been the ones that he has created and had a lot of success with. He's been very good with mid-range Hunter across the board. But this mid-range Shaman is something that evolved from this sort of tempo-y face Shaman that you kind of had previously. He kind of actually, I think he scrapped the 7/7s completely, and he's gone down this thing of 2 Thunderbluff Valiants, no Doomhammer, caps out at Alakir, the Windlord. So you're seeing some old cards come back into this mid-range deck that he managed to hit Legend with and has been having good success with it.
Yeah, and he doesn't just hit Legend with things either. He hits Legend hard with things.
Oh, yeah. Like, early on in the season, top 10 Legend.
Yeah,
exactly. You know, Boar Control is up there as consistent brilliance on the ladder.
He hits Legend right in the face. But I am just going to quickly ask you guys for predictions because the game is ready. So how do you think this series is going to go? We'll start with you, Scoundrel.
3-1 Boar Control.
I think Sheep's got something to prove. I think he's going to take it 3-2.
I'm going to agree with you on this one, Lorinda. I think GreenSheep has this one. I mean, Discard Lock, or kind of almost like a new version of Zoo Lock, maybe could be a deciding factor here. I think it's a very strong deck, but we'll have to wait and see, as I believe the game is well and truly ready to jump on into. So Boar Control up against GreenSheep. This one really should be a massive match to be watching out for, and I'm so curious as to what these decks are going to be, because, you know, we've seen the classes that they're going to be, but in a lot of these classes at the moment, it's still hard to say what those decks themselves are actually going to entail.
So I did talk to Boar Control today. I did receive a message saying, look out for my Hunter deck. I feel like it's going to be Meme Hunter. I think everybody that watching in Twitch chat will know what Meme Hunter is, but basically it revolves around 2 cards, and it has 1 win condition, and can be very, very, very tough to get a win with in competitive, but if you don't have the answers to what it provides, can win within turn 4.
I want to see that deck. It's so silly.
Yeah, literally. I think that sums it up nicely.
So GreenSheep here with Malkazar's Imp in his opening hand in Zoo. This is the card that's made Zoo even better than it was before. Whereas Boar Control is a much better matchup for Shaman than it used to be. But he's going to have to decide exactly how he wants to go at this. Maelstrom Portal, good against Zoo, but not so good against this version with all the 1/3s in it.
Okay, we immediately see Boar Control picking up a Master of Evolution. Blood Mage Thalnos in hand 2, and there's the Spirit Claws. You couldn't ask for a better 1/2 if he needs it.
Yeah, just casually 9 damage for 1 mana. That card seems fair.
Well, we'll see. I would assume that he's just going to drop that straight away. The odds of going against a Swampoos, especially now that Zoo's drifted towards this discard style, is even less likely now. And you already mentioned earlier today how Swampoos isn't really that meta right now because there's not that many decks running too many weapons. So.
Yeah, and GreenSheep not the sort of player in general to go crazy with tech cards either. He tends to play the game how God intended. Or Ben Brode in this case.
Are you suggesting that Ben Brode is actually a deity?
Yeah, pretty much. In our world, I think so.
Now he's got an option for turn 2. You can go with Thalnos, buff up the Spirit Claws, but then as well, there's the Tunnel Trog in hand. While he doesn't actually have an overload, it does set you up to build up that threat later on.
My issue with playing Thalnos here is that Thalnos guarantees you the 3 damage on Spirit Claws, and how bothered are you, because you know it's going to die next turn, right? How bothered are you about taking out a 1/3 with your Spirit Claws when you know Thalnos later can A, guarantee you a synergy with Maelstrom Portal, and B, give you a guaranteed 3 damage on your Spirit Claws?
Right, so if he's going to go down your route there, we might just see him bump into the Voidwalker and either play a Totem or just play the Tunnel Trog.
You can play the Tunnel Trog or roll the dice, basically.
Yeah, Totem, he might, if he's going to roll the Totem, he can just roll the Totem first, and then he's got the best of both worlds, yeah. So that'd be interesting to see, as the Tunnel Trog doesn't do much in the way of occupying the board. No, he doesn't want this board to get out of control.
So he knows Thalnos is going down, and remember the benefit of Thalnos is it will draw you a card. So he'll always have that backup benefit there, and he knows that he can then combo Maelstrom Portal and his Spirit Claws to deal with a 2 damage minion anyway, or 2 health minion rather, anyway, so there is always that in the tank.
Yeah, GreenSheep just doing what Zoo loves to do, getting as much of the board as possible. It becomes hard to say it in any different ways when you commentate on Zoo a lot, but Zoo's job...
Fish? He did indeed.
He certainly did.
Lots of
barrels and barrels of fish. He's certainly going to be quite happy with that totem coming on out. I mean, there's something to be said for maybe just wanting a spell power totem, so you can use those Spirit Claws to continue to control that board and deny the trade into the 3-2 as well.
So this is what I'm thinking about, is the merit to banging on that and then having the Maelstrom portal set up for if you need it later on, clears the Malkazar's in.
Yeah, I mean, definitely do that. And even if he doesn't get the spell damage now, he can also use the weapon as well. So using his weapon as efficiently as he dare, but, you know, when Zoo rolls like this, it is so hard to deal with, especially as GreenSheep. He went for the Flame Imp there, and he suddenly realised, hang on, spell damage, Maelstrom portal might be messy, but...
Master of Evolution comes as well. This is something that I didn't see in his previous iteration of this deck.
Yeah, Master Evolution's an interesting card. I don't know if he has anything special to fuel it with in here, like maybe a Witch Doctor or something crazy like a Pantry Spider.
Roll a spell power and win the game! That's like almost what it does for you right now.
Yeah, GreenSheep nearly played around it and decided, you know what, it's a 1 in 4, I'm not going to. Like he did think about that imp for a long time.
GreenSheep not happy about that one. You saw his face like...
He gets one of the best 1-drops in the game versus Zoo as well from his spell power totem there. There's the Alakir the Windlord that this deck tops out at.
So Boar needs to take this opportunity while he has it to make sure that he never loses board again, because Zoo will come back at you if you do hang about. It's got all that hero power, of course.
I think there's a pretty decent available option for him right now. Just totem and drop that thing from below. Certainly a great way to start to hold control of the board. And one of the issues as well that you sometimes find with this version of the Zoo deck is you don't run the power overwhelming. You can't really hold that card in hand because it's very likely to just get discarded.
Yeah, a lot of people did drop that power overwhelming, as you allude to there, in favour of just more consistency, because you want to occupy the board, and power overwhelming clears things, but it also clears your own things. So sometimes it seems to go in and out. People vary their decks very slightly, and power overwhelming is a card that comes in and out of popularity because it is definitely one of the best sort of 33, 34 Zoo cards. It just sometimes has to be in the top 30, of course, to be in the deck.
So this is a play that I was thinking about potentially. When are you likely going to get value out of Master Evolution, and also bringing a 4-mana 4/5 onto board is great. I mean, this is basically a better Chillwind Yeti, right? Because it basically provides a little bit more in terms of what it can do for you. And a 2/3 against Zoo is pretty solid as well. You know, River Crocodilist is a 2-drop. That's not bad at all.
Yeah, that's about as good as you can hope for from a 2-drop in the real world. He'll be pretty pleased with that. Although he didn't look very pleased with it, but... Boar Control, one of the nicest people there is out there when he's not playing Hearthstone.
When he's not playing Hearthstone is the key phrase.
When he is playing Hearthstone, he always looks like he's about to rip your face off if you get a good roll against him or something.
So, thinking about what can happen here.
I think Spirit Claws and Thing from the Below was the plan if he'd got spell power there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, doesn't get the correct totem. Still going to drop the weapon though.
My only other play that I was thinking about was maybe trading into Darkshire and then evolving your 4/5 following. But
I'm wondering if he's trying to set up a Maelstrom portal here, and it doesn't just look that nice anymore. There's a lot of plays that you can do with a Maelstrom portal here that are almost nice.
For sure.
But yeah, deciding to just do it the sensible way.
So Thing from Below is great to use Master of Evolution on, by the way.
Yeah.
Because I think it goes from being 6 mana to 7 mana for 5/5.
And you've only spent 2 or 3 on it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, this is whoa,
Whoa, okay.
GreenSheep decides, you know what? I've lost control of the board and I'm playing Zoo, so no, I'm out.
So board control with the board control, taking down the first game.
It's not the first time I've heard that, would you believe?
Really? I thought I'd innovated that all by myself, but yeah.
Yeah, I've got to say, a fairly early concede coming out from GreenSheep there, but to be honest, that's not the first time we've seen that in the Premiership. Multiple times I've seen GreenSheep go, you know what? I've played this deck many, 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 many times. Far more than most people in the world, I would argue. Yeah. So when he knows when that situation occurs, he's like, I'm not coming back from this. Like, there's about a 0.1% chance that I regain control at this stage. Cut my losses now. Don't allow that to tilt me further. Just continue to lose a game for a while. Just completely move on. GG, go next.
Yeah, it depends on your own mental build-up. We find a lot of players just play it out right to the end. That's what I prefer to do personally, just keep going in case something happens. But some people just find it's distracting them from the next game and want to get on with it.
No, and I think GreenSheep made a decision based on the fact that in general as Zoo, you tap out at your ability to contest decks with things like Doomguard, and Doomguard then trades into a thing from below pretty awfully as well. And without Power Overwhelming, you can never trade any of your lower tokens up into said thing from below. So again, he realised that I've already lost board control. When I get to turn 5 or 6 and I've lost board control as Zoo, it's over.
Certainly feels like a fair assessment, but here we go. Board control stepping onto the Druid deck now, and I mean, it's always somewhat hard to say when you got these kinds of cards, because these are very standard Druid cards, but it certainly lends towards that Yogg Druid. But
yeah, and that deck is so popular right now as well. It's a fair assumption until you see something that tells you otherwise.
Well, I'm going to eat my words from earlier, because I said I wasn't used to seeing that many Violet Teachers in Yogg Druid variants right now, but obviously everybody's running it, so Scoundrel is wrong, as per usual.
To be fair, though, I'd not really seen that much Violet Teacher within Yogg Druid. I think the kind of original, like, almost standard version that's on, like, Hearthhead and websites like that doesn't actually run Violet Teacher. I think that's a more recent occurrence that's been coming into the deck.
Turn 4 looks nice for board control, unless he wants to think about comboing further than just the innovate into Power of the Wild from the Violet Teacher. But I think as Druid, it is so key to start contesting board as early as possible versus Zoo.
Yeah, this next turn's going to be pretty gross if he wants it.
We could think about...
He may mulch.
Could mulch the Darkshire Councilman.
That is a thing that I think he may do here. There's so few efficient ways to deal with his Councilman.
I like how everyone's picked up phrasing from Sottle, by the way. That is a thing. That's such a Sottle phrase.
Sottle took that from me.
Oh, Sottle took that from you. Okay, oh wow.
Yeah. All the other things everyone has picked up from Sottle, I'm happy to give Sottle all the credit he deserves, but things and stuff are my own.
Oh, they're your phrases. Well, actually, you know what? I'll never credit Sottle again.
That's even better. Even better. Even if he deserves it.
Even if he... Nah.
So mulching this is a seriously good option because it does save you so much resources, and the Zoo, it either gets a low casting cost card, which is probably bad, or it'll get a high casting cost card, which he can't use because of all the discard and stuff that happens anyway. So it's a problem for the Druid to deal with, and he's going to choose to deal with it right now, rather than go for the crazy turn. And we may see him keep the Raven Idol, so he can do the crazy turn next turn.
Mana Tide Totem.
Of all of the cards that he could have been given, I mean, to some extent, it's not the greatest. It's not exactly an aggressive card as Zoo at this stage in the game. You do want to be building up that board presence. I mean, you have life tap anyway, so the card draw
about
in
as
itself.
Good as you could hope.
I mean, I'm not saying that it wasn't an amazing draw. Like, as far as random cards go, it could have been a whole lot worse.
Actually, with the Zoo, it's fantastic. You can actually... I think this version does run Defender of Argus. And obviously you have the Abusive Sergeants. It still remains moderately useful in that sense. And also it means it kind of protects your life total in some ways as well. You can sometimes think about not having to tap rather than tapping, and that can actually be sometimes incredibly important. But Yogg in hand already for board control, so even if things get too out of hand, he's got the backup of the man in blue/green/turquoise in form of Yogg Saron.
Yeah, Yogg Saron, Hope's End. And it's certainly ended a few hopes and dreams recently in various places, and definitely a card you can plan towards here. GreenSheep in danger of getting away with it. It's like board control's going to have a massive turn here, and then if GreenSheep can deal with the majority of this, he's going to be in a really good spot.
I can tell you guys as well, it is Wisps of the Old Gods, Claw and Power of the Wild in board controls. Discover.
I would almost be tempted to have gone for Wisp of the Old Gods, just because of what I've got in my hand.
I think if Wisps cost 6 instead of 7, I think he'd have gone for it.
Sure, I guess
he's thinking this lot won't be around in 2 turns' time.
Yeah.
So he went for the one that can impact the board if there is any board next turn, because a Zoo deck full of cards and some sort of board is going to clear a large chunk of what you've got.
Doomguard comes through. Great if Malkazar's Imp survives as well.
And actually, GreenSheep hasn't cleared up a huge amount of this board, so Boar Control's decision here is going to let him really get back into this game.
Feral Rage is good.
Yes.
I've got to say, Malkazar's Imp, and also the fact that there's a very good chance that Silverware Golem gets discarded next turn. Makes Doomguard a fantastic turn 5 play.
Yeah.
Not like he would do it most cases not on turn 5 anyway for this log, but with just having that in hand makes it fantastic.
Boar just double checking the merits of having these 3/3s clear the board as opposed to having them as 2/2s and almost clearing it anyway. Pretty sure he'll go for it, but there's no reason to not visualise how it's going to look at the end of the turn. And yeah, he's just going to go for it all.
Yeah, agree with this decision as well. Already has that Yogg in hand, so he's got that kind of final resort if he does need to go for that. But I think now Ball Control has found himself in a position where he's basically having to rely on, you know, what he gets off the top of the deck, which is not really a comfortable position to be in. And look at this. Doomguard, 2 Silverware Golems, can he... Okay, I only guess one of them. That would have been just unbelievably dream scenario. 11 mana turn 5 there was potential for right there.
It's still fine. So this game is almost certainly going to be a Yogg game. And although Boar's played quite a few spells, he's not in that wheelhouse where you really expect Yogg to go absolutely insane and just ruin your opponent. So it's going to be a finely balanced Yogg, I should think, this one.
Should things go absolutely haywire next turn for Ball Control, he can innovate Yogg as well.
I think he may. I mean, if he just draws, I don't know, Maya Keeper or something, that might not be the best example, but if he just draws something fairly mediocre, like Wild Growth, we might just see him Yogg.
GreenSheep's thinking, why on earth has Ball Control kept my Doomguard alive when he could have killed it?
Buying or selling?
We know.
We know. But I'm sure GreenSheep has an idea too.
One day, I'll be a real knight.
I mean, he can't play around Innovate Yogg. He can play around Yogg, but you can't play around specifically Innovate Yogg. Yeah, Ball Control throwing out the thanks there because now GreenSheep has played into this Yogg, and let's see how it ends up. Interestingly, choosing not to even swipe here.
Let's see what goes down. That's good.
Good start from the Yogg Saron. And well,
that's the end of that board.
He loses his Yogg, but at least he's dealt with the board.
Violence Portal on the face is fine. Battle Rage is good.
All 9 to face. Are you ready? Only 2 of the 9 actually hit his opponent there.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty bad Spreading Madness, and not many spells, and like I said, nothing happened at all. Oh, hang on, the whole board's clear. Yeah. But, you know.
Well, I mean, there wasn't too many spells coming out from it, and in the end, it didn't really actually help that much. You know, GreenSheep's able to retake the board once again, deciding whether or not he wants to actually go for the Flame Imp on top of things. He's decided, you know what, I think it's officially time to commit to this.
And I've been told off for using this phrase before, but I think on that occasion, Deathwing was just better than Yogg. Just innovate Deathwing, all my opponent's stuff's dead, I've got a 12-12 on the board. Does the same thing, and then you draw your way out of the rest of it.
Yeah,
that's my definition of whether a Yogg was good or not, whether Deathwing was better or worse.
No, I think that's a good metric to go by. I think I'll use that in the future. Thank you.
Sure, steal it. Go for it.
I will now credit you with that as well.
Just credit Sottle, it's fine. Because he hates it.
I actually don't mind that metric. I think, you know, Yogg Saron, you would play for various situations. One of the main ones is to try and clamber back board control when you have absolutely no other way to do so, and Deathwing generally does that for you, as long as you're not discarding your hand like crazy. But then board control got rid of his entire hand for that situation.
Yeah,
so.
It's a decent one to look to see. Like, Yogg is better in the decks it's in. Very often that's why it's in those decks. But just from time to time, you know, you think, oh, maybe Deathwing's better in this deck. Something like Control Warrior, it's no good because you've got a handful of cards, so you don't want to Yogg and you don't want to Deathwing and discard all those cards. But in decks that play few spells, Deathwing can be better. As we see, Board Control taking a lot of time here to decide how to play this turn.
I think he's played that correctly there. He's going to deal with a lot of the damage that's on board. Only 4 remaining now here for GreenSheep, and he's going to have to continue to tap. And this is one of the issues that you'll run into if you're playing this kind of Zoolock. You do have to tap as the further on in the game you get, even if you haven't been taking damage. You're the one that's actually going to be whittling yourself away.
He might as well Soulfire Face for a free card, right, as well.
Yep.
Oh, well, doesn't have to. But.
He needs to draw first, he has to discard. So he'll draw to see what's in his hand. You don't get anything if there's no cards in hand. So he'll see what he draws. If he doesn't like the draw, then he'll Soulfire Face
I
and
see.
cycle the thing he draws.
You have to actually discard the card to get the draw, yeah.
So if he doesn't like this, he'll just then do the Soulfire. Although he'll Soulfire Face for lethal is probably a good idea anyway.
Yeah, I like the Soulfire Face for lethal.
Yeah, just getting go down that. But yeah, Soulfire Face for lethal seems good.
Yeah, that's true. You have to discard a card to get. that's for some reason in my head. I just was like, oh, okay. He actually would have had lethal even if he'd Soulfired anyway, because
Yeah.
he's life tapped and then.
Which is actually a reason to have Soulfire Face last turn, because that may happen with a Soulfire or Doomguard. So.
Absolutely. Well, that is going to be GreenSheep taking that one. So we even the series up 1 apiece now. Is that the first time all night that we've seen 1 apiece? It feels like it's all been 2-0s and then someone finally getting back into the series.
Yeah, I think it has.
So we're going to have a bit more of an even match on as well. It means that GreenSheep is going to step away from that lock as well, which kind of opens the ballpark a little bit wider. And obviously we know GreenSheep loves to go for those aggro decks. And GreenSheep has been saying, I know he's in a Skype group chat with our admins, and he's been saying, like, I don't know whether it is just banter, but he's speaking a lot about how much he loves playing aggro right now. So there's definite potential for the rest of his decks to be leaning towards that archetype as well.
It looks like GreenSheep's going to be going for the Warrior. And it is Dragon Warrior, ladies and gentlemen. And it's going to be what looks to be Meme Hunter, or basically Secret Barnes Hunter.
I'm done.
I tried this deck, and I just couldn't. It never seemed to work for me. It always felt like the scenarios just weren't quite working out correctly.
So what you do when you play this deck, you mulligan exclusively for Barnes and tracking, if it is that deck.
Oh, he's got Power Shot.
Yeah, that is because basically you run a load of board clear and anything that can keep you. And if you don't get, that's good because that's pretty decent for controlling board. If you don't get Barnes, then you have double Call of the Wild anyway. So
just to explain to people what we're talking about, just in case they haven't seen this deck around, you basically play 2 minions in your deck, Barnes and Ishiraj. Sometimes you play High Main. We'll forget that for now.
Sure.
You get the Barnes down, it fetches a 1-1 Ishiraj. The 1-1 Ishiraj fetches the real Ishiraj. There's no other minions in your deck. The rest of your deck is like good huntery board control stuff,
sure,
as Excoundrel was just explaining. And then you just hit your opponent with these really big things. Everyone's first opinion is like, oh, what if it gets hexed? What if it gets executed? You know what? When you play the deck, they don't get hexed and executed that often. And also you have spells like Call of the Wild, so you're not completely all in on that combo.
So, Snipe played here. Frothing Berserker feels like the right play, but GreenSheep has to be aware that maybe that could be a thing.
Yeah, it's one of the secrets that people are swearing by at the moment. It's a secret that I'm particularly unfond of personally because of the arena days, and GreenSheep's just going to get sniped.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate that it's Frothing Berserker as well. It's a perfect amount of damage to finish that off, and you know, that's one of the cards that you really want to be your big threat in the game, and it almost never is, but when it is, it's just that glorious, glorious moment.
Or it triggers your flashbacks from back in the day.
Yeah.
One or the other, depending how you define glorious.
So I feel like Eaglehorn is okay here because the follow-up as a natural progression to Eaglehorn would be maybe a double secret. So that basically gives Eaglehorn more charges, obviously.
Yep, looks good to me.
Take out the one you know that your explosive trap isn't going to kill the next turn.
Sure, and GreenSheep's got to be awake to that. I don't think there's anything he can do. That's the thing. He probably is awake to it, but there's nothing he can do about it right now. He's got to put something on the board. You can't just hit a hunter for 3 all day long and hope he doesn't kill you.
In fact, do you even double secret here? You just play explosive trap and a charge drawn in hand ruins one of the major win conditions of this deck.
One of the major win conditions. If that's a Barnes, he wins the game this turn.
Yeah.
It's the other one. Obviously, that's the risk you take with this deck, which is why it's got a bit of a meme status.
Well, we know now that GreenSheep actually he had an answer to it with Blood to Ica to execute. So,
and he is starting to just get through the life total of Boar control as well. Just to point out, this deck is dangerous. However good this deck is right now that Boar's playing, nobody's really sure. Give it 3 months of being tuned up and a new set of cards. This deck is something that isn't a joke. This deck can win games right now, and it's going to just get better and more refined.
Board Control's playing the ping game here. He's saying, I'm going to use these Fairy Dragons for board control over anything else.
And I think the number one mindset that he's going for right there is he has a Grommash Hellscream in hand. He can use that explosive trap to proc his own Enrage.
Yeah, really good point.
Look at the secrets right now. 4 secrets in play for Boar Control. He's got many a situation covered.
It's the Hunter Christmas tree. The true Christmas tree, because it is green.
Wow. That's a fair joke. So, what does he do here? He knows there's probably another snipe.
There is another snipe. He just played it as well. So, another Frothing Berserker just instantaneously gets taken out.
And he knows it. But
I would say it's worth dropping the Alexstrasza's champion just to soak up the snipe. Oh. Not going to opt for that one. Sacrifices another Berserker. So great efficiency out of these snipes for Boar Control.
Oh, super.
Two mana kills onto 3 mana minions.
I guess Sheep's deciding to keep the champion for the best value, you know, for the charge attack later if he thinks he can get a win out of it. Green Sheep absolutely spectacular in these situations a lot of the time, although also if he plays the Alexstrasza's champion and it lives, things get really messy for this power shot.
What now?
Don't do it! Okay. Thought he was just going to instinctively put it in the middle there just for, you know, people like symmetry and stuff, but luckily Green Sheep's good at the game and puts it in the right place.
Coin Power of the Wild seems nice here. Just go, you know, Coin Power of the Wild, start to chunk face.
Him in the face.
But then obviously the Fairy Dragons get value with Coin Power of the Wild.
Yeah, and he'll know as well that... I don't like using the coin here, but I think he will know that Green Sheep's building up for something and that he might work out that something is Grom. So we may see him Call of the Wild just to defend things.
At least take out Alexstrasza's champion, which will proc the freezing trap if it gets through the explosive. Which he would probably take that out with his bow, however.
See what he does with his tracking. The options are Call of the Wild, Bear Trap, and Animal Companion.
I think you take another Call of the Wild every day.
Right.
Kill command onto the 2/3. Just literally because you don't want it to proc your freezing trap.
Yep, seems good.
And it means you can weave in another hero power, and maybe even expend your bow charge on the face here, because that'll just start doing some serious damage.
Yeah, that's what he chooses to do. Good call. And suddenly the game's kind of level, although it's maths time.
It's... I was going to say it's Grom o'clock, but freezing trap exists, and both of his Fairy Dragons... well, he played the explosive trap first, so the Fairy Dragons would go down, and I think Green Sheep will be aware of that.
What now?
But then again, he's seriously considering it. Do you think it's worth just dropping the Crusher?
This is one of those very few times that, as a caster, it's so difficult to know
whether or not they'll
what
be
to
aware.
do because you've got such complete information in front of you that, you know, it's hard to progress how Green Sheep's thought about this game, you know, what he thinks Boar's doing. I think you're right. I think playing the Crusher is the right play.
I think you could, at this point, play the Crusher as a 6/6, and it will remain on board. You could even try and proc the explosive trap, but he's going to go for the Grommash.
He's probably wishing he'd kept back the Alexstrasza's champion, though.
Yeah.
Because he could have charged him with that, then dropped the Crusher, and nice things would have happened.
Do you think maybe at this point Green Sheep was considering, you know, it's very likely that the freezing trap is here, but you know what? I can play Grommash next turn as well. I have a Blood to Wicker available. Maybe I just get rid of this freezing trap. Or in fact, doesn't opt to go for the attack with Grom.
Call of the Wild seems nice, I guess. Just 8 mana Call of the Wild, you know.
Yeah.
And now we're starting to get into nerve-wracking territory for Green Sheep. This definitely still could go either way. Just 14 HP on either player and 1-1 in the series.
What is Boar Control calculating
He's
here?
calculating if he's guaranteed lethal next turn. Like, what defense has Green Sheep got if Boar Control just trades here and then plays Call of the Wild next turn? He would have 7 power on board, plus the 2 buff from Leok, plus the 5 from the Huffer, plus his weapon. That's loads of damage. Plus he even has Coin Hero power next turn as well. So he knows he can set up next turn lethal, and he's trying to work out through every card in Green Sheep's deck what could mess that up. Will he have a taunt? Can he gain some armor from somewhere?
Even Twilight Guardian doesn't save Green Sheep though, right? which is the only taunt I think that this Dragon Warrior would be running, and maybe Chillmore at a stretch.
Fierce Monkey is often in
yes,
Dragon
you're
Warrior
right,
at the moment as well.
But that kind of serves
But
the same
you're not going to get
purpose.
both, right?
Yeah.
And looks like facing the place this time.
Fierce Monkey comes out off the top.
Not
Is this
sure.
lethal? No, because of the freezing. I'm losing it. So if he'd kept that Alex Straz as champion back, things may have been very interesting there.
Also, one thing I didn't factor into the situation with Bromash and the freezing trap was obviously gains mana cost, so he couldn't have done that with the Blood
So I
Slipper
assume you
anyway.
meant turn 10 though.
Yeah.
It would have worked fine there.
But that is going to mean that we have another win on the board. 2-1 now. So this is starting to get a little bit uncomfortable. And I've got to say, I'm surprised that Hunter deck was able to take the victory quite as convincingly as that.
So this is why people are talking about this deck in terms that it might not be too bad. Boar Control drew the parts of the combo the wrong way round, which obviously completely stuffs your hand up. And he still managed to get a win in a difficult matchup. So I do feel that if GreenSheep had kept the champion, maybe there's something I'm missing, but he could have triggered the freezing earlier and then maybe done some better
then
Grom
could
things.
have got the Grom through.
I think the only one thing I would chime in on that particular issue is that this kind of works. I think a lot of how Secret Paladin worked right at the start, where people eventually are going to realize how to play against every individual secret more realistically. But honestly, in terms of value, Hunter secrets generally get more value than Paladin secrets, and everyone kind of figured out the process to go through with Secret Paladin to take it out, especially when they played Mysterious Challenger. So again, it has that element of, oh, there's loads of secrets on board. You know, how do I deal with all of these? Do I even know what they are?
And talking of loads of secrets, this is loads of ramp. Boar can choose how he wants to go about this now. And it's this sort of hand that is A, really powerful, but B, really difficult to play. Like, I think we're just seeing Wild Growth into Mire Keeper. I think it's fairly straightforward, but
And
he has a lot of options.
A beautiful kind of rounding out of that curve is you can then coin Ancient of War the following turn.
Sure,
so it's like,
he'll do that.
oh my goodness, suddenly turn 4 I've got a 5-10 on the board. That's pretty much dream scenario for a Ramp Druid.
Yeah, so when I say this hand was hard to play, actually I hadn't looked at it closely enough. This one's a reasonably easy one, but some of the very similar hands to this are remarkably difficult to work out exactly how to get the most out of them.
When you've got things like a Arcane Giant, for example, instead of an Ancient of War, that's when it gets a little bit more clunky.
So one of the things I wanted to point out with this particular way this hand has panned out is that you want to draw. It works a little bit like Astral Communion, right? You want to start drawing big minions after you've got all this ramp. You don't want to start drawing your useless, almost what he's drawing right now, because it feels bad, man, that you don't really have anything to play for 8 mana when you get to that point, you know, 3 turns ahead of your opponent. So
now he'll want to Mire Keeper 4 mana, and he's going to have an interesting decision how many, if any, of these innovates to play. He can, of course, we can see what would be a really good play would be to just innovate, coin out the Ancient, but he won't do that because of Execute.
Yeah, it would be you'd lose so much tempo in that scenario. I think the Boar Control play, based on what he knows, would be Mire Keeper, innovate, Wrath the Alex Straz's champion. That seems like the most sensible play. You know, given what Boar Control knows.
And then he has the choice to use the other Innovate to Hero Power, which I don't think he would do, but it's another option. I think he's going to do yours?
No, he's not.
He's going to do Ancient.
No, here he
Ancient of
goes.
War and the Wrath. Okay, so he's basically saying, like, you know what, you've got 3 cards.
Yeah,
The
have
odds of that being an Execute at this stage are actually pretty slim.
Sure, and if you have got it, then one of your cards at least is out of your hand, so you only actually got 2 functioning cards. And Boar will now just, you know, shut his eyes and hope, and that's a really, really good play.
And that's a terrible set of hero powers from Finley.
He's also sitting on one of them.
Yeah, Finley is bugged out on the screen, everybody. I'm sorry about that. He will be sat there until he dies.
Some of the limelight.
And that is an awful set of hero powers, like you say.
Reinforced with Totemic has to be obvious.
Probably Totemic because of Swipe, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Which is, like you say, feels bad, man. It's just not what you want. But Dagger Mastery, you've got weapons in your deck. You don't want to just ruin those. And Reinforce is just easy taken down with your opponent's hero power or the swipe. So he goes with the totem and just gets on with it.
That's 2 damage from Blood to Ica.
Yep.
Could be worse.
And now what do you do? I think you probably run in the first mate just because, and then nothing else. Just because it might die in incidental fire, so you might as well get something out of it.
Can certainly see that. Yogg-Saron the next draw. And again, we're finding this situation where Boar Control, while he does have this huge minion on board, he does have some things going his way. He's actually not got that much kind of follow-up in his hand right
At the moment, right, this Druid deck, though, one of the reasons the pros love it so much is it's so good at just drawing one more card that draws you one more card. You've got the Drakes, and you've got things like Moonglade Portal, which in this position are like drawing a card because they refuel your Ancient. You've got stuff like, obviously, Nourish, which is completely insane in this position. And the deck just always feels like it's getting lucky, but actually it's just built to either play a big minion or draw you more cards.
And I think as well that almost lends towards that classical style of trading card game play where it's like decks are designed to always find a good situation.
Right.
Like they're designed to have that kind of fallback, and this deck feels very much like that old classical style.
I completely agree. Now, the choices that I feel like Boar Control was thinking about, do I take out Sir Finley? Do I go face? I mean, what's my play here? I feel like taking out the Fairy Dragon is fine, but also once they take out Sir Finley, I guess this way, if he has Fiery War Axe, he forces both of them to go in regardless.
Yeah, he's going to kill. He possibly would have killed a 0-2 there if the numbers had worked out differently. This, like you say, it just forces the maximum thing, and you can see him rolling his eyes there because the one punish was that Corcoran Elite.
Pilot Teacher's good off the top, however.
Yeah, and we've found a point in the game right now where both of the players have kind of expended their early game resources, and I think we're going to go through a few turns of just kind of dropping what they have and just kind of ending the turn.
Such a good draw here.
And GreenSheep has refuel as well. This is why Dragon Warrior isn't going away, because GreenSheep can just draw the Curator, which is why they're playing the Monkey now, because it's a beast that synergizes with that Curator. It won't do that much. He's drawn his Finley, but he'll have another Monkey and another Dragon if he draws that. So that's his refuel. But he has one. Boar Control has a deck full of it.
Well, interesting that he goes for the double sapling there, considering that you're against a Dragon Warrior that, you know, historically runs the Ravaging Ghoul. You kind of fill your board with a board that's actually quite likely to get deleted.
Yeah, and he knows that. So I'm curious if he's got a slightly... He hasn't drawn a Power of the Wild yet, I don't think. So maybe he feels like he's just got to run the gauntlet one more time. He feels that maybe a Ghoul would already be on the board. So he's ready to draw his Power of the Wild before GreenSheep draws his Ghoul.
Well, there's your Power of the
But
Wild.
it's a great read from Boar to work that out.
And he's got Mulch as well. Like, that could be huge. You could just mulch away that.
The 6-3.
Yeah, you could, well, any of them, but he's going to go for a little bit more of a conservative option. Just trade efficiently on board with everything that he can.
I think it's fine to save the mulch for, I mean, Dragon Warrior historically runs things like Ragnaros, also there's the Curator, you've got Gromash, there's plenty of bigger threats that you probably want to save, especially if mulch is your only version of it in the deck.
Right, and your opponent has one card. So you're thinking, if I can mulch that one card, in the real world I've probably won the game. I've got two Azure Drakes in my hand that are going to just keep the pain coming. And he's just trying to make sure he doesn't do this wrong. Do I need the minion on board? I might as well, I think, is usually the default answer with a rope going.
He's got two Azure Drakes in hand as well. The cycle there is incredible. Another dead Twilight Guardian.
I think that's out of the Dragon Warrior cards to play without another dragon, I think that's the worst one, the Twilight Guardian. That's the one that feels the most useless when you drop it without the effect.
Especially at the moment. And also, you know you're throwing away another dragon that you want to keep, but you can't because you're getting behind on board. Outside of Blackwing Technician, which is also a hopeless card without...
Yeah. At this point, Boar Control's got a good, healthy hand. He's got cycle, removal. He doesn't feel completely pushed to play Yogg-Saron right now. Has picked up Mark of the Wild here.
Another Raven Idol. Right now, this turn basically for Boar Control is just cycle for Yogg. Like, just cast as many spells as I can.
Yeah, he has two things to do. He has to not lose. Like, he doesn't want to play Yogg. He'll feel that he's so far in front that he doesn't want to play it. How do I win this game without Yogg?
That's a great draw here for GreenSheep. Keeps him competitive on board if he needs to.
What do you trade here, though? Would you risk your face on 14? I think that's kind of playing it a little bit dangerous.
Yeah. Going the other way, do you give away your last viable minion? Do you just go down to 1-2-6? How do you ever win the game with a 2-6? That's the other option. I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
But he'll be thinking, if I don't take this damage, how do I ever kill my opponent?
I guess you're hoping that it's not a Malagos variant for ball control here, and it's just a straight up
Sure, yeah.
ramp, Yogg Druid.
Yeah, praying to the heavens right now. That is not the case.
Do you even bother with
second mulch?
It kind of feels bad to mulch a 2-6 on board, right? Because you're going to be potentially giving him something much more viable.
Yeah, I don't think he will.
Yeah,
I think with how little damage is available on board, you're quite happy to just drop the 3/2/2s.
Yeah, this is GreenSheep's like one slot to do anything impactful, and he's going to at least make a 9/9, but.
And well, I mean, the 2/6s are going to come into their own against this board. There's plenty of free trades that he can opt into.
Yeah, they're a great shape for the board, and Sheep thinks it's over. It isn't quite, but it's very near. Anything off the top at all? Nothing at all.
I don't mind mulched Ancient of War, to be honest.
That's the first instinct. You've got to mulch, or you might die.
What does it give to GreenSheep, though? I think that's the question. GreenSheep is basically asleep at this point. He's given up on life.
Master of Ceremonies. Brilliant.
Well, rest in peace, sweet sheep. That is going to be a third prediction for Scoundrel, but more importantly, a victory in the bag for Boar Control. So 3-1 in the end, and Boar Control starting off this season as he means to go on.
I didn't actually get my second prediction correct. I said John Bray 3-2, and it was Mysterious 3-2.
Okay.
So I know I didn't get 3 out of 3.
We've got away with it, boys.
But 2 out of 3 is a 66% on my prediction ratio, which isn't bad in terms of score and winner.
Nobody's saying it's bad. We were just expecting you to gloat harder. I mean, what do you make of that series, Lorinda?
I thought that Boar came very well prepared. I was surprised how well he did with that Hunter deck. I thought, I've played it. I know that it can do well if you don't draw them in the right order, but GreenSheep seemed to get a little bit twisted up with those secrets. Maybe hadn't played against it much, or?
Yeah, I think especially the Frothing Berserkers into the snipe, where you maybe could have played the Alexstrasza as champion to soak that trap up, but I mean, at the end of the day, as you rightly say, that might be a deck that he's not that experienced to play.
Yeah,
but I've got to say, I was impressed by Boar Control.
Yeah.
Multiple turns, there were many options, and some of them were the more obvious options, and he opted not to go for them, and it ended up gleaning in better situations.
I learnt Hearthstone during university by having my PC screen turned towards me when I was going to sleep and just watching Boar Control play at 3 a.m. and just like literally spectating him.
So that's how you sleep at night. I've been wondering this all night. Well, but yeah, I mean, he is a terrific player.
It's a resident sleeper Boar Control spectation. Yeah. But no, and I genuinely, that is what helped me learn Hearthstone, and Boar Control's been a big influence for me. Choosing my decks on ladder, learning, and so you always, unfortunately, casters are not supposed to be biased, but you'll always find me just biased a little bit towards Boar Control. But I'm just glad he came out and proved us right again. The champion came out and 3-1'd.
I've got to say, you sounded like you were accepting an award as you started that there. Like, I've got to say, when I first started this, Boar Control was a big inspiration to me. I also want to thank my mum and dad. But we are going to head into a quick break, ladies and gentlemen. But we have two of the other big kind of... I don't even want to say big names, because I pretty much feel like all 8 of these players are becoming big names, especially in the UK scene. But we have Cypher versus Raven after the break. This should be a huge one. Cypher came second last season, and he's definitely going to have something to prove. And speaking of something to prove, Raven, the caster/player, is he going to be able to prove that